Okay, so this week we're up to week 6. There's a few different things happening. There is a poem by Dylan Thomas called "Do Not Go Gentle Into This Good Night." Some people argue that it is a poem entirely about death and raging against the dying of the light. Other people argue that it is a poem about Dylan Thomas's father going blind due to a degenerative illness, and that it is raging against the dying of the light, as in his father will no longer be able to see. And so, but that's fine. Like, English is full of times where you can interpret a text differently as long as you use evidence to back it up. But we've kind of gone with the theme of it being about death so that it links into the rest of the unit. And it's actually quite a classic poem, sort of like the 1950s American poem about this topic, really. We've got another poem there by William Shakespeare. You may have heard of him. So late sort of 16th century. His whole theme in the poem is kind of interesting because it's sort of about not knowing, not remembering somebody once they're gone and not dwelling on thoughts of them, but then he's written a poem to immortalise himself so that people will dwell on him and have thoughts of him. So it's a bit ironic. The other thing we're really focusing in on is the examination, which is in a few weeks' time. And we've put up something called short story planning. In that document, it's kind of a conversational thing to get you thinking. It's got like some tips and things. It's got some ideas about how to sort of bounce off Christina Rossetti's poem called Remember that we did a few weeks ago. And it basically has like a little bit you have to fill in that has orientation, complication, resolution. There's some other questions in there about, how you're going to build tension and all those kind of things that you could also put some tips down to help yourself when you're studying in week 8. And then there's a little upload place for that called short story planning notes. That's important to do that so that we know where you're at and we can help you. For the exam, as I've said previously, there are poems and there's a little PDF called A Selection of Poetry. What we're going to do for the exam is we will just choose 3 of those poems and we'll put them in the exam. The time you will know precisely which 3 poems will be the stimulus for the exam will be in week 8. So by Monday of week 8, there'll be information going out about what the 3 poems are, the exact task sheet and all that kind of stuff. We're not allowed to release it until 1 week before the exam, and then you'll have that week to prepare for it. Just some news coming up. This is our last week on the Depictions of Death unit, and the reason for that is we need to start the next unit rather than waiting until the end of the first week of term 4 to really get started with it. We need to start it now because we're going to run out of time to then start the Year 12 work just before the end of the year, so that you have enough time at the end of Year 12 when you're studying Shakespeare's Macbeth and having to do an external exam on it. So we've sort of got to change the timeline a little bit to suit the new curriculum, to suit the different demands of this current syllabus that they're implementing. And so that way we're giving you guys the best possible chance to work within the QCAA guidelines. Please email me if you have any questions and I'll be happy to help.